Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Table Talk. I'm your host, Jake Combs, and today we are taking a look at this massive haul, courtesy of Green Stuff World. Now, the fine folks over there decided to grace us with all of these amazing products. Now, some of them I've tried other versions of, and so I can speak to those, but most of these are for the purpose of our trial, our use. We've got a lot of content planned revolved around all of these items between here and the TikTok page, so something to look forward to. So let's go ahead and get started. So as I said, these were provided courtesy of Green Stuff World themselves. Now, every item here, as far as my understanding, with the exception of the Milliput, is actually produced by Green Stuff World themselves. Now, the Milliput is a type of putty that they offer. But we are going to take a look at it, to see the consistency out of the package without actually breaking the seal, because it is another epoxy putty and we don't want to actually mix those things up yet. But we're going to go ahead and try this out. Now, I am familiar with Green Stuff itself. I am familiar with Green Stuff's products. I've shown a few of them to you over the years, and so far from my experience, all of the items that I've ever received and used, I've loved. So I'm hoping to have the same kind of experience here. Now, with the number of items that are here, is that realistic? Probably not. But from what I've seen and continue to see from those folks, they have such a high standard of quality among their own products that it's going to be hard not to meet those expectations. And so let's go ahead and get started. Or I already said that, but you know what I mean. So we're going to go ahead and open up the Milliput. Now, as I said, it is a 2-part epoxy. I've never used this before. So it looks like one side is kind of cream colored. That's the blue side, and then this side is white. Now the white side is much stiffer, where the blue package is much softer. And then it says mix equal quantities of the 2 sticks by rolling and kneading for at least 7 minutes. This is most important when mixing super fine white Milliput, as the sticks are the same color. Milliput becomes rock hard in 3 to 4 hours at normal room temperature. Store in cool, dry conditions. Further instructions and product information can be found on the website from milliput.com. And on the side, so some uses are modeling, sculpting, wood turning, restoration of porcelain and other ceramics, suitable for repairs to UPVC, and for chips in bath sinks and tiles. So that's actually pretty cool. I didn't realize that there was a putty like this that was so versatile. So definitely something to keep in mind. Now we're going to set the big items aside, just because there's so many little things blocking them. So we want to make sure we give them their due. All right. So this right here, this is green putty, acrylic modeling filler. Now, for those that need a frame of reference, this is their version of liquid Green Stuff. And so I've seen some videos on this that other people have done. We're going to be doing one similar to test it out and describe the experience. But essentially, what you use it for is like when you have 2 models where the pieces don't come together evenly, or like maybe if you over trimmed some of the molding, and now you have a gap there, you can use this to actually fill in the hole without having to use a big piece of Green Stuff or other putty of some sort. And now, from what I've seen in those videos I've watched on this, specifically using this, it's much easier to control than liquid Green Stuff, because liquid Green Stuff tends to be more liquid. But this is still soft enough that you can still get it into those cracks real easily without having to possibly, you know, overlap some features that or details that you don't want to cover up. Now this right here is their brand of green stuff itself. Now these items are mostly separated. A little bit of leakage had them touching, where most green stuff that you buy is not kept separated like this, and they actually come in like the large bands together where you just basically start folding it. But when you have bands like that where they're consistently touching all the time, you do tend to end up with kind of a center ridge where it's much more rigid and, you know, much harder to work in there. And so it does affect the ability to make details with the putty when that happens. Now, one of the other problems as well that I found is when you have them like that, where some of it's already hardened in the center, it's much harder to mix the putty evenly. And with that in mind, we have the polymer clay machine. So we're going to go ahead and open up this one, take a look at it. Oh no, I don't want that to happen. All right. So this does need to be assembled partially, but not much. So we do have a clamp to secure it to your table. We do have a lot of plastic protection. Let's see, and it looks like, according to the image, it goes in up here. Okay, so I'm not really seeing a spot where you're going to secure it so that way it doesn't just fall out when you're not using it. So we're going to definitely have to try that out a little bit more thoroughly. But once you remove all the protective cover, you'll then be able to actually blend your putties or your clays together a lot more evenly, and you basically put them through here many times so that way they do come out more even like that. I'm definitely excited about this because I've always had issues with my hands due to an injury that I've had when I was in high school that makes them cramp up very quickly when I use them a lot, especially with putty like that. And so this is an ideal item for somebody like myself to help mix those putties where we want to use them, and because that really has been a detriment to my using them and my desire to use them is because of how difficult it is. And so having a tool like this, it makes it a much more enticing idea to do. Now, these 8 items right here are, or 7 because I can't count, are some of their textured rollers. Now, no, it is 8, one fell down, so I can count. So this one is Regio Draco, where everything's kind of tiled dragon themed, and it looks amazing. Can't wait to use all of these. This one is Alien Hive. It's definitely got a very xenomorph feel to it. When I start doing some Tyranids, I definitely plan on using this one specifically for their bases. It looks very much like the inside of like the xenomorph ships. This one is Norseman, which, if you couldn't guess, it is Norse themed. Some of their symbology, we got one that looks like a Viking with crossed hammers behind his head. We've got looks like an owl. Now, when you're using these, it is advised to moisturize them a little bit before doing so. You don't want them dripping wet, but you do want them moist. So that way the putty you're using doesn't actually get stuck in the cracks themselves. Here we have Arcane, which this is kind of more of a magical style. To me, it looks very in line with like the symbols for like the Lumineth Realm Lords or the Eldari, and definitely looks very cool. This one is Atlantis. So this one would kind of go in line with more with like Ideneth Deepkin, but very similar ideas overall, but kind of got that Grecian or Roman look to it as well. Madness of Cthulhu. This one, when I gave this into Green Stuff World for the items that we were interested in trying, that was actually the first time I'd ever seen this, and seeing the roller there, I absolutely fell in love with it. You've definitely got kind of a cross between the Atlantis one, as well as kind of almost in line with the Norseman one at the same time. And we definitely have some tentacle creatures and things like that engraved into the stonework. Here we have the Templar Abbey, which very much, as you would expect, looks kind of like a church of some sort. I personally would use this to help make bases, or maybe a piece of terrain for something like maybe like Black Templars, or Imperial Guardsmen, or even Cities of Sigmar or something like that. Especially like if you had any of the Flagellants or Warrior Priests. And this last one is Dark Runes. Now this one looks very much like it's got some sort of runic language covering everything. Now, like this type of thing would probably be better suited for maybe like some walls of like inside an asylum or a cultist chamber or something like that. Very cool though. I love all these textured rollers. Like even though there's 8 here, I personally owned, I believe, 5 or 6 separately, and even with that, there's even more available on their store. So depending on what you have in mind, they have ones that are based on cobblestones of various sizes. You have kind of a concrete styles. So you have all kinds of things like that. Now, if you are doing bases using these, it's going to be difficult to kind of cut them out. And with that in mind, we also got these round cutters. So that way, once you actually lay out the putty and get it carved, or not so much carved, but indented with what you want to see. There we go. So this does have cutters of various sizes. The largest one being 60 millimeter, 58, 55, 50, 48, 40, 38, 32, 30, 25, and 22. Now, what surprises me there is, like, I know some systems are geared more like closer to like 28. And so I'm surprised that there's not a 28 millimeter in there. Now the 30 millimeter, I mean, really 2 millimeter difference is not substantial. So like for me, I'm gonna be happy enough doing the 30 millimeter. But you're gonna have some people that are much bigger sticklers for accuracy, and so you know that might be an issue for those players if that's something they need. So if you need 28 millimeter, that is not going to give it to you. Next, we do have some barbed wire. Now, this is 5 meters of it, and designed to be military style. Now, I have seen some people like cut some off and then coil it up into tighter circles, and it definitely gives off the effect of like kind of the barbed wire in the trenches. Like touching it through the packaging, not feeling anything poking, so it's more visual than realistic, but definitely will do the job for you. And definitely have some ideas for that, especially like for example, you know, most of the modeling stuff that I do is typically with Age of Sigmar or Warcry, but with the most recent Adaptus, I can't remember their names all of a sudden. The oh god, I can't remember the army's name all of a sudden, but their recent box set for that said was Cadia Stands. I definitely want to be using some of those, creating some barbed wire traps that the Scout Walker thing, which I can't remember what it's called all of a sudden, is stepping over, and especially around the gun replacements, putting some of those as well. Now these, I have not used these exact styles before, these texture plates, but they are fantastic. Now again, you do want to get them a little wet, just like the rollers, before applying green stuff to it. There we go. So we have, this one is Scale Armor texture plate, kind of in the style of the Samurai, and very evenly detailed. I like that it's a really flexible material, makes it easier to pull the putty off. This one is also Scale Armor, but a different style, or at least a different print. I know the image for it is also the Samurai, which doesn't exactly match up. This is more of like Scale Armor itself. Kind of got the like chevron look to it. And so the ones we've used in the past were, let's see, we've used a, we have 2 or 3 of them. One is fur based, or fur themed, in which we used to actually make a large pelt. These 2 are both variations of scaly skin. One is much thicker scales, and the picture that they use for it kind of looks like Killer Croc from Batman. And then this is the smaller scales as well, and as we can see through it, it's using the same image. Now definitely looking forward to these. Now with these 2 in specifically, what I have in mind is that we're going to be doing a group of chariots for my Slaves of the Darkness army, and so we specifically got some additional models from the original Warcry releases, with these chariots in mind. One of them is actually going to be themed after the oh god, it's been so long since I've looked at them. I'm drawing a blank on their name as well. The snake themed army. I want to say it's Slytherin something, but those guys, and have a couple of their guys riding the chariot, and it's gonna be driven by Cold One mounts that we got from a Lizardmen set. And what we want is to have some lizard skins draped over the sides of the chariot to kind of give it more of a scaled look. And so with that in mind, we needed something to do that, because my freehand green stuff abilities are not even close to being good enough for that. So this is going to be the way to go for us, for sure. Now, next we have steampunk molds. Let's go ahead and open these. This package is sealed, so when you open it, so it looks like it's going to be a little difficult to get to go back together, possibly. We're going to find out here. Now, these are very flexible molds, but where you can kind of create some like clock pieces or gear shapes to use in like some of your terrain, or to additionally adorn some of your bases. Now, I really like the feel of the silicone mold itself. Definitely very clean etchings as well. Now this one is their dice molds. Now specifically, I've been wanting to get some custom dice for a while, and one thing that keeps coming up in my feed for TikTok is people that are making dice with like little pieces of miniatures and stuff inside, and skulls and things like that. And ever since I've started seeing those videos, I've been wanting to make my own. And so with that in mind, they sent us one of these, so that way we can actually try that out, use some resin, and see how we like it. So we're going to go ahead and open that as well. Now it is, as you can see, a very flexible material. It is cut out. It even has a pour hole on it, so that way you can actually pour the dice in, or the resin in, directly using like a funnel. And so all of them have that. And then on top of that, they even have stuff to actually make them stand while it's drying for you as well. Now, like with this one, oh, let's see. Okay, so with most of them, you know, I wish that the bottom on them was a bit wider for stabilization, because I imagine that once these get filled up with resin, it's gonna have a little bit of weight to it and might have a tendency of leaning, so it could affect the evenness of the pour. But we're definitely gonna try it out and let you know what we think. Now, anytime that we're doing basing, you know, I always like to use some sort of foliage, you know, usually some sort of grass, in most cases kind of a dying grass. But I do have a lot of plans for using some order-based models for my Age of Sigmar games, and the Stormcast Eternals specifically. And with that, you know, I wanted to kind of do like a spring theme for them. And with all of my dying grass and stuff that I already have, I have nothing that's going to work for that. And so wanted to try out their tufts as well as their shrubbery, see how they work, because I wanted to do some larger bushes, but you know, static grass can only get you so far with that. Now on top of that, we also got, because you know, in Age of Sigmar we are dealing with multiple realms, and you know, with that kind of have some fantastical things, and like this is Hellhole Red, and so a lot of, you know, variation and bright different colors to make them stand out and kind of give off different effects. Like this neon Yeti blue would work really well for like maybe like a Frozen kind of tundra look. And also on top of that, like with 40K, you have a lot of planets out there where their foliage isn't going to necessarily match that on Earth, and so something like that is definitely going to work really well. Now, with the fact that my existing green stuff skills aren't very good, there's a couple items that they had available in resin that I thought were going to do perfect for me, because they're definitely along the lines of some things that I wanted to use. So like specifically tree stumps. Now, I actually tried modeling my own tree stump not too long ago, and it came out looking terrible. I still used it because it was the only thing I had. I was unaware that Green Stuff World actually offered an exact solution for what I was trying to do. And these look very well detailed. Definitely going to be a joy to paint. Here we have various rats, which I was looking to actually create some kind of different kind of rat swarm style to go with my Skaven, and I was thinking about maybe having some like the character models having some smaller rats kind of accompanying them on the base, to kind of give more of the look of like just the overall swarm that we've come to know from Skaven. And now they do have actually a resin piece that is a swarm of rats. I believe they have other swarms as well. But to get started, I actually wanted to try just the individual rats for at least what I have in mind right now with my current Skaven that I have planned. Mechanical skulls. Now, I do have some Adaptus Mechanicus, some Astra Militarum. That's the name I was forgetting earlier. And with that, you do have servo skulls, and those are the type of things I really don't have the skill to model, and so had that in mind when we asked for these. Now on the back they do show some assembled, and they look fantastic. So definitely looking forward to making use of those. Now, especially with using chaos, especially chaos sorcerers, it's never a bad thing to have a some sort of magical evil looking tome with them, and so that's why we requested these ones specifically. Like we have screaming faces. Some of them kind of look like the Necronomicon from Army of Darkness. Got some Cthulhu looking manuscripts, and so definitely a lot of cool stuff on there to give your characters a little bit more flavor. Now, you guys may remember that recently we did have a video where we were using and talking about the latest cutter from Games Workshop. Now, that pair was really the best cutters I've ever used, and that's saying a lot because I've used a lot of different cutters over the years. Now, most of them not from like groups like Games Workshop. Most of them were actually from like the hardware store, and so kind of a little too bulky, a little too rough to do the job right for some of these models. And so with this, it has a flush blade cutting edge, and so that way you can make sure that you have nice smooth cuts. And in the actual drawings of the blade, you can see that it's actually much flatter, much thinner, and so it's going to be a lot easier to get into the smaller details based on the description. Now, we're definitely going to put these through the tests and see how they stand up compared to those. Specifically, the only tabletop brand that we've tried besides Games Workshops, and we've tried about 4 different generations of theirs, was one from Army Painter as well. So definitely looking to try this one out and seeing if it surpasses the quality of the one that we have from Games Workshop, or at least how it compares to it, because not all cutters are great for the same jobs, where one might be better at something else. Now, for a long time when I've needed to cut anything off, it's either been using a flat edge razor or using a big, large, like when we're talking like that big, handsaw. And so when I saw this, definitely got really excited, because this is actually a mini hobby saw, and I've never actually used one like this before. So definitely looking forward to try this out, especially with cutting some things off that we want to be more of a straight cut without kind of crushing one end like clippers tend to do. And that way you have a more surviving pieces of left whatever you're making. So definitely looking forward to that. Now on the back, it does actually give instructions specifically not to hold it perpendicular to what you're cutting, but to actually hold it at, it looks like about a 45-degree angle to do it right. So definitely recommend paying attention to those instructions. It does show you how to assemble the blades as well. You do have 3 different styles of blades, and it looks like one of each from what I can see. Yes, it specifically says 3 different kinds of blades. Does not say anything about quantity of each. But looking at it, I can't, there's too much glare to see if there's more than one there, but I don't think there is, based on the way it's written. Now these 2 items, they're fluorescent splash gel. One is blue, one's green. Now, I've seen the after photos, and I've seen some really cool effects done with these, and so kind of what I had in mind for like flaming green specifically is I'm actually going to be doing a storm fiend for a diorama, and with that I want to have flames coming out of it, and kind of green glowing flames coming off the ground and off of several pieces that are going to be part of that. And so this is definitely going to help with that, I think. Now, with some of the pictures I've seen, this might come out a little bit too thin, kind of look more liquidy than the nature of the flames. But we'll definitely try it out and see how that comes, and whether we like this better, or maybe just doing some green stuff flames instead. And with the blue, that comes, when that dries, it very much looks like water. And so I've seen some images of people using this to kind of make ripple effects in like some poured water that they have and things like that. So definitely looking forward to trying both of these, to seeing what they're capable of. This I had never seen before compiling the list of items that we were interested in. And what is awesome about this is it's specifically for people like myself that almost every time they glue using super glue, they almost always glue at least 2 fingers together. Now, not hard and not enough to actually make them like stuck there where I'd need help, but this is actually something that's used to help soften and remove those glues. Now, I'm wondering if doing it might actually work on glue that's dried on fabric as well, or drying on fabric, because if it has, it might save some shirts that I've ruined in the past. Now, let me rephrase. I don't think this is going to help with the ones that have already dried, but if I do accidentally drip glue on other shirts, using this right away, I think I'll have a better chance at salvaging those before they're ruined. But it's definitely something I'm looking forward to trying. Now, like, I always hate the feel of glue in my fingertips, and it usually takes me a couple days to scrape off the excess over time on its own. So I'm thinking using this should make that much easier to deal with and remove. So very excited about that one. Now, I'm always on the lookout for good metallic paints specifically, and gold is the hardest to find a good quality of, and I have yet to find a gold that I am actually happy with. And you know, for longtime viewers, by now you should know I'm pretty dedicated to the Citadel paint series. But even no matter how much I love their paints, their golds are just so inconsistent that there's a lot of separation. It's very hard to mix them properly and have them flow onto the models very well. And so when I had the opportunity to try these out, I had to take it. Very excited to try these out. Now, don't know anything about them. Ooh, I hear an agitator in there. That's awesome. I think that these days, with you know, the tendency of paint to separate as it is, that okay, that one I don't hear one on. So the Eldorado has one, which, okay, there it is. Oh, no, it was just stuck in one of the ends. Yep, there it is. So all 6 do have the agitators. Sometimes it just takes a minute to get them actually moving again. So with those agitators coupled with like our Vortex mixer or our Green Stuff World pot mixer, definitely think that these will get well blended at the very least, and definitely looking forward to trying them out and seeing how well they do. Now, from what I do recall, I'm pretty sure I remember seeing that they had a non-metallic metal set as well. So something to keep an eye on if that's something you're interested in. But I've never used their paints whatsoever, so don't really know what to expect from them as far as, you know, how evenly they go on. And I do understand that to give a paint series, you know, a proper shot in the review, we're really going to need to try some standard paint colors as well, and see how well they do. But you know, for comparing just the metallics alone, which I do use a lot of metallics, I am not somebody that does non-metallic metals yet. But you know, I'm definitely looking for something that's going to do the job, and I'm hoping this will be it. So we have 2 more silicone mold sets. Now these are actually for doing larger structures. Specifically, one is a graveyard and one is stonework. And from what I've seen some people using them, they did build some pretty large sets overall. There we go. So with the stonework one, we have 3 total. Again, just like the other ones, very clean. Now these ones that looks like the floors and some like archway supports. Looks like some windows as well. Definitely a lot of detail there, and a little bit thinner than I expected. Like, I also was expecting most of them to be about this thickness. Now, looking at the scale of the opening, though, I am a little disappointed. I was hoping that this would be closer to the scale that would work for Age of Sigmar, but this is actually a little bit smaller than I was hoping. But you know, we're still going to give it a shot and, you know, see how it comes out. but I really like how the roof pieces came out. Just a lot of clean detail there, and especially with like how some of these parts are angled, having this be so flexible is definitely going to make removing the finished pieces out much easier. And it does actually have real thorough explanations for like how to assemble certain things, so that's really cool. Now with the graveyard, it's gonna be a lot easier for smaller scale like this to work as a mausoleum. Now, definitely looks like it's gonna be, yep, just 2 molds overall. And again, a lot of really clean detail. Really looking forward to actually using these pieces and test them out. There's even pieces to make pillars as well. And looking at the picture, and I actually didn't notice this, but there's even some like stone angel pieces as well that you can use. All right, now this is something I was very excited about, because if you're like me, you probably have quite a few paints as well as other tools, and keeping those tools together, or keeping them in a state where they're less likely to get messed up, it can be difficult at times, especially if you keep them in a not consistent workplace. So like for me, when I'm working, I don't have a dedicated workstation, so I basically have to keep everything in a box. All my paints in boxes, brushes in a box, and then so that way when I'm ready to actually paint, I take out the boxes for what I need. And over time, as I've been increasing my amount of brushes and tools, I've had some concern for the longevity or life of my brushes, and so saw this, I got very excited because this is a very nice looking holder. It's very stiff, so you're not gonna have a lot of flexibility that can damage the brush. And it's also got kind of banded spots to put the brushes in. Now, with the number of brushes I have more than the slots here, so I would actually need several of these. But also with the pile of brushes that I have, and most of them are going to be able to sit loose in here and be just fine. Now, we have the touch-up tool set. Now, when this was first shared with them as one we were interested in, specifically suggested it as an option to kind of kill multiple birds with one stone, specifically with the putty and some of the tools. Now, because or not because, so for whatever reason they decided to go ahead and send us this as well as send us the putty separately instead of just doing the one from here. But it also comes with different grit sandpapers, the classic style green stuff, some carving tools, as well as some shapers. Now this is not what I was expecting. I was expecting to open it up and have everything kind of loose in there. Now these shapers are much smaller than ones that I actually owned already that I got from Amazon, which are much larger, and this will actually be a lot better for the finer detailed work. The different sets of sandpaper. We do have a user guide for what's in here. Shows you a lot of how to do the different tools, how to use the shapers, as well as the putty, the sculpting tools, the sanding pads, the liquid green stuff, or green putty rather, color shapers. So definitely some cool stuff there. Kind of help refresh you or teach you if you've never used any of these items, and kind of show you what they're intended for. So I really like that. So on the back, it kind of gives you a step-by-step of just a general process. And I did see that they used, not sure if that is the actual Space Marine or if that's something custom to be a Space Marine, because I don't know all of the models for the Space Marines themselves, because there's just so dang many of them. And so when we actually try out the clay machine, we'll be using this clay stuff or this green stuff on it to test that out. We have the sculpting tool set as well. So definitely a lot of cool stuff there. And then last but certainly not least, one thing that everyone tells me is that, like if you really want to step up your game, like there's tools or techniques that can really amplify your skill level in a short amount of time once you learn them, and mastering them will do wonders. And first one of those items was learning how to dry brush for me, but after that everybody told me that you really need a wet palette. And doing this, or doing the hobby and painting and stuff since about 96, never got one. And so saw this opportunity and decided to include it on the list. So let's see. Okay, so this actually separates entirely. I'm assuming one part being the lid. And then with it we put our pad there, and then our individual sheets on top. Definitely looking forward to trying this out. Like I said, I've never used one before, and so it's definitely going to be an interesting experience. But a lot of cool stuff ahead. Definitely looking forward to trying all these things out, and seeing what we can do with them, and letting you guys know what we liked, what we don't like, either with them or just in general. But definitely a lot of things to come. Really looking forward to getting in there and trying all these different things out. But I want to say thank you to Green Stuff World for providing all these items for us. We're very excited, very grateful. Thank you guys as always for watching, and as always, I hope you have yourselves a great day. Thank you.